What's up, everybody? It's Aaron Ray back again with another episode of Franchise Tagged Fantasy Football Podcast. Sorry we didn't come out with one last week before the official NFL season started. Kind of had a little bit of stuff going on. I was still trying to move into my new house, get the internet situation situated. It still might not be the best. Kind of live out in the sticks with satellite internet, so if Ray gets a little blotchy, I apologize, but it's the best I could get for where I am. So, anyways,
I really think this is the most handsome I've looked, and you're gonna blotch me out.
Stop it, man. I'm sorry. But anyways, please be sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, share it with your friends, share it on Facebook. The season is started. We're planning on doing more than one episode a week now. So, yeah. Anyways, how you doing, Ray? It's so weird because I moved my cameras. I'm used to looking over here, but now I'm looking over here so I can look right at you.
Well, there's this thing called fantasy tilt.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about it or not.
I have.
It's new. I made it up. You heard about it?
You're pioneering the phrase fantasy tilt, huh?
I think maybe I'm not pioneering it, but I am captaining the ship right now. Let me tell you.
Just captaining that ship.
Before we get into all of that nonsense and talk about gross old fantasy football, I wanted to ask you a question, Aaron, because
yes, sir.
My wife makes some pretty good meals and whatnot, and I get to enjoy them on a regular basis. I wanted to ask you, if you were to take me out on a date, Aaron, and we went to an Italian restaurant, what would you get?
What would
be your Italian move? Little does some of the people in this in our viewership know, me and Aaron met in Italy.
We did
on a romantic softball tournament.
It was definitely men's slow pitch softball, but I wouldn't call it romantic. But I gotta fix my camera shaking. I'm sorry, guys. Are we talking straight Italian, like Italian sit down restaurant, or pizza place, or because you can't beat Italian pizza?
Italian restaurant. They have pizza though. They indeed have pizza.
Authentic. There's so much you can do. Authentic Italian style, or
authentic Italian style. If you want to go get pizza, you can. If you want to be that guy,
I'm probably going with just straight up spaghetti with some form of either some meat or something in it, but with that vodka sauce that they make in it, like straight out of Italy, that red vodka sauce. Oh, that's on fire.
See, I'm more of a.
But if we're sticking to like American Olive Garden, Zio's, whatever else you guys have in California, like the trash American style stuff, you got to go either lasagna, chicken fettuccine Alfredo.
I can substitute those for a calzone as well. You want to hit me with a pepperoni black olive stuffed into a calzone? Ooh.
That's fair.
Ooh.
That's fair.
I don't know. That's me. I'm a fat kid at heart. Let us know what you think about that in the comments. I would like to hear this.
A little bit of bread, a little bit of red wine, a little bit of
garlic salt,
a little bit of spaghetti. Some prosciutto, homemade freaking prosciutto.
You want to know one of the ones I really miss?
What's up
about Italian cuisine?
What
it was like the seafood pasta. It was so fresh. It came right out. It had like grains of sand in it. It was so fresh. And I know that sounds gross, but let me tell you, it wasn't. It was the real deal. Like clams and mussels and shrimps and sometimes octopi.
That is fair.
Just something I thought about today.
But yeah, I mean, definitely. So, well, guys, I guess it's time to break down week 1 and go ahead and to get into some overreactions. Do you want to start this segment, Ray?
Well, no, go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron. I have mine, and I'm going to really go in on this because I was wrong. But go ahead.
So, first one. It's pretty obvious. It was the first game played. Everyone was giving someone crap in the group chat that we have for our league. Ezekiel Elliott. Do not freak out about Ezekiel Elliott. Yes, is Tony Pollard going to get more work? I believe he will. Yes. But at the same time, Zeke is not going to be that bad all year long. They're not going to play the Bucs defense all the time.
I hope not.
So, yeah. But yeah, that's my first one is Zeke. Don't overreact on Zeke. However, caveat, if you can't find someone in your league that has him.
That isn't a Cowboys fan.
That has panicked, send him an offer. For real. Send them an offer and try to acquire Zeke on the cheap. Go ahead.
All right. So my thing that I'd really like to bring up, and this is maybe not the number one thing I'd like to bring up, but Aaron Jones.
Mm-hmm.
I think people are going to overreact on Aaron Jones. I think that what you're going to see is a full tilt on the Packers. And to be honest with you, I understand it because let me tell you, I was all the way upside down tilted.
It was I get it too. Trust me.
Yesterday.
It was really, really gross. It was actually putrid of what happened.
The thing that makes me so mad about it is that that's what the Packers were waiting for this whole offseason. Right there was what we saw. They were prepared for the Saints. They were preparing for the Saints, blah, 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 blah. But clearly they weren't because Jameis Winston came in and torched them for 5 touchdowns while still having the lowest amount
How'd you go from Aaron Jones to
I'm sorry. It's just a lot of hate right now.
We should have had the air out session later. This is fantasy relevant.
Yeah, you're right. So Aaron
no
Jones,
one's playing Packers defense anyway. They might play him next week against Detroit, but I really doubt it. I would not either. But yeah, everyone's gonna. I have Aaron. So let me tell you this, viewers as well. A lot of y'all might know. If I told you after the Thursday night game, I was up 58.5 points, and I had Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and Antonio Gibson left to play, would you have think that I'm needing the Baltimore defense to at least give me 5 points tonight to win? If you didn't know what happened over the weekend.
It's kind of looking like you might get that.
But listen, I don't care about the game going on right now. I need you to focus on what we're doing here. Would you have thought, oh man, you're gonna kill that team, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but guess what? Aaron Jones went out and put up 3 points. The game got out of hand, so Alvin Kamara wasn't on the field as much as he needed to be. He still got me 16, but still, it's like, and then the whole Washington thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick going out for 8 weeks.
How do you feel about Gibson going forward right now?
I think it's going to be great.
How do you feel about Terry McLaurin going forward?
I think he takes a little bump down.
Do you see him more as a mid-tier receiver too?
More towards the high end probably, just because it's going to be him and Logan Thomas again. Because Curtis Samuel, I don't think is going to be right all year long. I think if he does get right, he's going to end up re-aggravating his stuff. And you know what's messed up is when someone said Terry McLaurin's on the block, I almost sent an offer for Cooper Kupp for Terry McLaurin. I'm glad I didn't.
I'm
glad I didn't at this point in time. Kevin, if you're watching, that was the offer. I thought about offering you.
The opposite tilt. If you've got Cooper Kupp, you've got gold in hand.
I do want to talk about that too, about as far as overreactions go of players that are just putting up stud numbers. I want to talk about kind of both of the aspects. So you just went Aaron Jones. I know we got a little derailed there.
Sorry.
But yeah, I think that is going to be an overreaction. I also think Aaron Rodgers is going to get a huge overreaction.
You might see cuts.
Yeah, you might see him get dropped or people trying to trade him for pennies on the dollar for like a Joe Burrow who looked good, which Joe Burrow did look good.
Pay attention. And if you're in a dynasty, or you're in a keeper league where you would really like to get a piece of Joe Burrow, that might be a move.
That might be a move, yeah.
Yeah, it might be a move because
I'm looking for
Joe Burrow has probably one of the most stacked receiving cores that are in the league right now. I don't think that's like up for like debate. I really do believe that.
Yeah. Another overreaction. I had it on Derrick Henry. That's what
I was just about to say. There had to be Derrick Henry.
So we're on the same page.
It has to be Derrick Henry.
The Cardinals, I don't know what Tennessee did. They were like the Packers in this one. Those are the 2 games this weekend that stick out to me of basically write those off because I do not see that being this way the whole year. It was just a weird first weekend for those 2 teams.
Now, this is the thing that I'm more concerned with about Tennessee going forward and Derrick Henry. Is there what you saw with the sack totals on Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry not being able to get established? Do you think that has something to do with that offensive line? Do you think that Chandler Jones almost setting an NFL record against that offensive line is a indication as to what you might see going forward throughout the season? Because that's my, I guess, scare from that game. Similar to what the Packers showed.
I just think it's going to take, because Tennessee didn't play very many starters through the preseason either.
No.
So I just think it's one of those things where they're kind of behind the curve because they've got a lot of new pieces. So I think it might take them a couple games to get jump started. But I don't think that outside of maybe the Colts, I don't think they're really going to have anybody that's going to jump on them like that on the defensive side of the ball. Everyone, I'll say Julio as well. He's something to monitor. He's not necessarily an auto start anymore after what we saw. I know it was a whole off game, but I do have Julio in one of my lineups. I'm going to start him this next week, see how it goes, and then from that point on, it'll kind of be dependent upon situational matchups if he didn't do well.
Yeah, and I would like to caveat when we're already talking about Arizona and what they showed defensively, way more than I thought they would be coming into this season. I thought they were going to kind of be a bag of buns out there. Not the case. If they're playing against a weaker offensive line, you're firing that defense up. If you can find it on your waiver wire for that week, might be the week winner for you because, man, they were bringing every bit of pressure they could, all Ryan Tannehill could take. And it wasn't even just Chandler Jones. I mean, you saw, because I watched that game almost exclusively. It was on the TV right there, and J.J. Watt was all up in his grill. He had Chandler Jones in his face. They sent a bunch of different packages and blitzes with their linebackers. Just a lot of sacks that you could be getting on a defensive start, and on a tilt matchup. Like, I don't know, think of a team that has a weak offensive line. Plug that in like Atlanta. You're firing up Arizona in that game.
Yeah, I mean, that is fair. I mean, what other overreaction? There's so many that, like, from this week.
Yeah, Saquon. I think Saquon
there you go.
As well to me. I didn't think that Saquon was going to be held back as much as he was. I was on the train to say that he was going to come out, he was going to start, and he was going to get the full workload. Clearly not.
No, I knew he'd be on a snap count, but I just didn't know it would be 10 carry snap count.
Yeah, not 10 carries. No, I was thinking like 16, probably, maybe 18. I know that sounds like a paltry difference between the two, but when you're adding up, you only got 10 to 18. That's a big difference, especially seeing how he wasn't really involved in the passing game either. So, and that's normally part of his game. So definitely another thing, if you're a Saquon owner or somebody that would like to acquire Saquon, I bet that tilt is super heavy right now.
Yeah, I bet it's real heavy. So we can kind of just stick with kind of the same games. Sterling Shepard, don't overreact on Sterling Shepard. He does this every year where he has one or two games where he gets, well over 100 yards in a score or two, and then people go spend FAAB on the waiver wire or use their number one waiver priority, and then the next week he goes 2 for 22 and 0. So
I can definitely see what you're talking about, but we're going to be talking about waiver ads. I think Sterling Shepard, for me, is somebody that you want to take a look at if you're real weak at receiver. You need a plug start because it's going to be a little while before Saquon's back in action fully, and it's going to be even longer until they figure out that they don't have anything in Kenny Golladay, because Kenny Golladay
he went 4 for 64.
Still a trash can. I don't care. But I think Sterling Shepard could be something, maybe a receiver 3, something to take a look at.
It's fair, I guess. But I'm just saying, don't overreact and pay buku bucks for him.
I would say at max 5% of your FAAB.
Yeah.
That's max.
All right, let's speed through this now. Don't overreact on Mike Evans. He does that a couple times a year. Who else?
You're gonna have to live with what Mike Evans gives you.
Yeah, George Kittle. Don't overreact on George Kittle.
No.
Are you gonna help me at all, or do I have to come up with all of them off my head?
I thought you were gonna just come up with all of them. You're doing so well.
I was doing so well.
I would say if Justin Fields is on your waiver wire and you're weak at quarterback, like say that you are going with the streaming quarterback options there, might be a guy that you want to take a look at because he's going to get that job soon. It's not going to be very long. It's going to be 2 more games at max, and then Justin Fields is going to be on that field, and he could be winning you some ball games. So definitely take a look at that as well.
Don't overreact on Melvin Gordon. He was like, what was it, like 10 for 30, and then he had a 70-something yard touchdown run. So don't overreact on Melvin Gordon. He does play soft defenses the next couple weeks. So if you have him, maybe play him and then try to trade him high after a couple good games. But Javonte Williams out-touched him by 14 to 13 or something like that on carry, or 14 to 11 on carries or something. And Javonte Williams just looked a lot better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, Melvin Gordon's a little old. Bad news for Jerry Jeudy.
It really is.
Trying to think. Robbie Anderson.
Champ.
What's up?
That's a people's champ right there. Jerry Jeudy. I want to stop on this for a second.
Oh,
Look.
my God.
How much
long-winded on all of it today.
I have to be. Look at my team. I have to be. I'm so upset right now. Jerry Jeudy was going to be a real stalwart on this old Chubb-filled roster that I got. And now I got to sit there and hope he comes back in 6 weeks. To be honest, if you don't have an IR spot and you're needing to make moves, you might want to consider dropping him.
You have to drop him. Try to pick him back up a week early, but you have to drop him. You can't hold on to him. Robbie Anderson, he got his day saved by the 57-yard touchdown. Yeah. Because outside of that, nothing was going to him. DJ Moore's the clear number one in that offense, and Christian McCaffrey is clearly taking everything underneath.
I want to even say Christian McCaffrey is probably the first look for any passing offense too. He finishes the number one running back in fantasy this week without scoring. That's
without scoring a touchdown.
Crazy. With Joe Mixon getting like 30 carries.
Yeah, I will go out on a bold limb and say, you brought up Joe Mixon, don't overreact on Jamar Chase. He went 5 for 101 and a touchdown. I get it. It was a great showing from a dude who had problems seeing the ball in preseason, but wait a couple weeks. See what actually happens. Don't overreact on week 1. He will be good. I will say that. He will be good, but don't expect a 5 for 100 and something and a touchdown every week. You know what I mean? Some weeks you're going to get 5 for 50 and nothing.
Something I would like to ask you, Aaron, is what do you think about Brandon Iuke?
Apparently, from what was said, it was from the 10 days missed in training camp, but still getting over the hamstring, and that Kyle Shanahan, he's not afraid to just tell people, nope, you're not going to play because you weren't there. So I don't really see anything of it. Give it a couple weeks, but if you drafted Iuke before Debo and by week 3 it's the same stuff where he's like 2 for 20 and only getting targeted on 13% of his routes ran, then you might want to panic.
One thing that I would really like to point out is Trey Sermon being listed as the number 2 going into the season, not being available.
He was a healthy scratch.
Game.
He was a healthy and active, and then it turned around to bite Kyle Shanahan in the butt because the cartilage in Raheem Mostert's knee said, no, I'm not going to do it. Now he's out 8 weeks. He was 2 rushes for 20 yards and then hurt himself. He was like we talked about in the group chat, and I said to Kevin, Raheem Mostert's going to get 100 yards rushing in 9 attempts. It's just, I don't know. It's crazy to me. I think that pretty much covers most of the overreactions. If we skipped any guys, let us know in the bottom. We can discuss. Let us know who your overreactions are, who you're ready to just fire, sell, and get rid of, or who you're really wanting to go after and acquire. But anyways, I do want to see what people say on this one. But anyways,
waiver claims?
It'll be out Tuesday, so we're gonna hit you guys with some waiver wire people. I've tried to make my targets for the waiver wire less than 50% owned in Yahoo leagues because that's what the platform we play on. So, do you want to start at the quarterback position and just work our way down to tight end?
We could. I mean, I know there's going to be a lot of people scrambling right now because of maybe went out and started Matt Ryan, and you saw what that offense is going to be. It's not good. If you got Russell Gage, I'm sorry that I even said his name. Nope, cut him. Nope, cut him. Don't sit there and wait. Cut him. I think, honestly, if I'm going to start it off, hard because, I mean, I see Jameis Winston sitting there at 44%. That's
nope, that's a trap.
You think so?
He threw 14 passes and 5 of them were touchdowns. That's a trap.
Well, I mean, you got to think about it. You only have
they're not gonna play another lackadaisical team as bad as the Packers defense was.
How about Teddy Bridgewater?
Potentially, I could see that.
Okay, these are all streamers. Don't think these are all just people that you can go and sign right now. That streamers.
These are I don't know because Jerry Jeudy going down. I know he missed half the game, but yeah, I would say Teddy Bridgewater just because he can be a game manager. And some weeks you don't necessarily, if you're trying to stream quarterback anyways, you're looking for the guys that have a safe floor but the high upside. So you're looking at your Sam Darnolds, right? I think Sam Darnold could be a good streaming category or fit into the streamer category. He's owned in 15% of Yahoo leagues. And well, they have New Orleans next week, but the week after that they have Houston. So kind of stuff like that. I wouldn't say Jameis Winston. Sorry, I have my list. I would say Tua Tagovailoa could be a good streaming option. You don't like it. I know you don't like it, but he's only owned in 29% of Yahoo leagues, and he plays next week. Sorry if my phone's going slow because I don't have good internet. They play Buffalo next week, which might not be a good one. And then they play Las Vegas. So if you're looking to get ahead on the FAAB, I'd play him, but he might surprise you against Buffalo. But yeah, what do you think about Jared Goff? How do you feel about that?
It's going to be a lot of garbage time, and Jared Goff didn't particularly look good doing what he was doing, even though he almost won that game. He had a lot of boneheaded passes, and I watched a lot of that game. Just to let you guys know, Jamal Williams is a far better running back than Swift
Stop
is.
it. Basically, main thing for streaming the quarterback position, just because every league's going to be different. Like for our league, for example, there's a lot of quarterbacks that are left on the board. But in the other money league that I'm playing in, dude, there's teams with 3 quarterbacks and 2 or 3 tight ends. Like, it's all just dependent. So just pay attention to your matchups.
Okay, so I know that
a little more in depth.
I know that you said 50%, but I want to bring up a name just so that if it is on your waiver wire, if Baker Mayfield is on your waiver wire, I would definitely take a look. I know that he's 74% owned, but I find that hard to believe. Like, I don't know anybody that's like, oh, Baker's the guy. So, but I think he's going to throw a hell of a lot more than he did last season. It looked like he was against Kansas City. They had that game sealed away, and they just ran the ball. They could have just ran the ball, and they didn't. And they're going to get Odell back eventually one day. So definitely something to take a look at. Maybe he was so owned this week because of that matchup, because people were thinking that he was going to have that shootout. Maybe that's what it was. I would definitely take a look.
I would say that, that's a pretty good shout. You want to move to wide receivers?
Sure.
So I would look at Christian Kirk. He's the clear number 2 in Arizona.
Yes, I would say Christian Kirk and Rondell Moore.
I would look at Rondell Moore too. Maybe for in case I don't get Christian Kirk in my waiver claims, put him as a backup. But Christian Kirk is, I think, the higher value there out of those two. You want me to go again, or you got one?
I would say, like we had said before, I think Sterling Shepard could be valuable in a certain situation. Like, say, you were the Jerry Jeudy owner and you're the Odell Beckham owner. You know what I mean? Now I'm looking at I don't have any receivers to put in, so I have to take a look elsewhere. I think he's going to get initial work right now until Saquon's back up to speed, and then he probably can cut him after that. But an initial, like I said, maybe 5% of your FAAB at max, or maybe not even a waiver claim. You might.
If you're not playing in a FAAB fantasy football league, you're doing it wrong.
Just do it.
You're doing it wrong, yeah. Anyways, so my next one is going to be Mike Williams. I know that he's owned in, like you said, with the Baker Mayfield thing, he's owned in over 70%. I think it's like 73% of leagues. He was 1 target pace behind Keenan Allen in that game, and every time I looked up at the TV or the flip back to that game, he was getting a ball thrown to him. So I'm kind of nervous for Keenan Allen a little bit because it was 13 targets for Keenan Allen and 12 for Mike Evans. So you might want to target that guy. And I know a lot of people got him late rounds back of drafts.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Nelson Aguilar is another name that I'd like to bring up just to let you know that he is the number one in that offense. It's not a question. He is. And I didn't think that was going to be the case going in this, but clearly Bill Belichick thinks so. So another name that I'd like to bring up, maybe a Zach Pascal at 1% owned. I think that's a trap.
I was just going to bring him up. He was someone I want to talk about. He caught 4 balls for 2 scores. That inflates his numbers a lot this week. But I do think potentially that he could have the Cooper Kupp in the Rams offense, how Cooper Kupp functions in that. I do think that he could be that guy for Indy in the red zone, running out of the slot in the red zone, having the higher lower receiving work, actual reception games with the higher touchdown upside games out of the Indy offense. But if you want to try to get him a week early for cheap, this week's not the week.
Now, 2 guys that I think need to be talked about for sure. KJ Hamler and Tim Patrick. With Jerry Jeudy going down, one of those guys is going to be the recipient of a lot more passes until Jerry Jeudy comes back. I don't necessarily think that it's all going to flow to Noah Fant and Cortland Sutton, but I like Tim Patrick in that situation. You know what I mean?
Same.
I think that
I do too.
KJ Hamler's volatility is too much for me to feel comfortable with putting him in. Tim Patrick's always been pretty solid. He's been a receiver 3 for a while, but he's been pretty solid. He's got touchdown upside. They like him in the red zone. Definitely something to look at. Again, maybe 3% of your FAAB, maybe. If that's pushing it. I think you could wait until waivers to go let that go through. I think you could.
Maybe.
Wait for free agency.
Maybe. Jalen Reagor looked good at not having to be the number 1. He didn't look great. He just looked good. So maybe if you're in a situation like you are, Ray, where you need some help because of some injuries early in week 1 in the wide receiver position, maybe give him a shout.
Yeah.
Are you looking at anybody in the Houston backfield on your waiver wires? No? Why not?
No.
Why not?
Who's it gonna be? How bad is Jacksonville's defense?
They use all of them. I don't know. Honestly,
how bad is Jacksonville's defense? Those are 2 questions I need to answer. Who is it going to be, and how bad was Jacksonville's defense?
Yep.
And I think the answers are right in front of you.
That is fair. Would you say Carlos Hyde is a must-add?
Yeah, probably. I mean, not a must-add. I think that if you have some injuries to your running back, or if you have questions that you're flanked or something like that, maybe Carlos Hyde is viable. But what if this was just a one-off game? I couldn't imagine them going and doing all of this, handing the ball off and getting James Robinson involved last season, and then completely flipping the script and saying, no, we're not going to use you at all. I just think that it was just a one-off kind of thing. I don't think James Robinson is cuttable. I don't think that he's benchable. Probably not for where you drafted him. And I don't like. I hate Carlos Hyde. I just really do.
Do you?
Maybe it's my own bias in there. Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
Somebody I do like is Gio Bernard.
Really? Why?
Yes. I know that it's gross. I know that you may have thrown up in your mouth a little bit while you're listening. I understand.
Actually, I said really maybe why. No, you don't have to make your point because it all just flashbacks to me from Thursday night. You know why? Because Ronald Jones fumbled the ball, went to the doghouse, and Gio Bernard was out there for every third down that he possibly had, and was out there late in the fourth quarter in the 4-minute and 2-minute offenses. You don't have to tell me. That's exactly why, and I know it is.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that the last thing you could say is, how long is Leonard Fournette's leash to look so mediocre? How long is it? It can't be that much longer. I'm sorry, you can't. He's just not.
Potentially can't. Potentially can't. But go ahead.
You know what? running back wise, I don't know. I mean, obviously, Elijah Mitchell. Is it Mitchell or Mitchell?
Mitchell, you
Sorry.
got Sony in your head. So
I know. Started talking about trash cans, and I was like, "Oh, Sony Mitchell, gotta be this guy."
If for some reason, I want to say this caveat first. If for some reason Trey Sermon did not get drafted in your league, that is the must add. I know he got drafted in both of mine. He should have been drafted, but if for some reason you play in a family league and people just don't pay attention, Trey Sermon should be added in your league if he is there. But
let me ask
now, continue.
How much FAAB are you willing to spend on Elijah Mitchell? He looked good, and I understand it's against a Detroit defense.
17 to 23%, dependent upon your roster construction. Huh?
That's a lot, but
if you're hurting if you pulled the zero running back strategy and try to get Raheem Mostert late, bro, you're gonna need somebody. You see what I'm saying? So you're gonna need to spend up. You're gonna need to spend up. That's another one I'll talk about. Jamal Williams. I know you got drafted by you, correct?
He sure did.
That's another one I want to talk about. Draft Jamal Williams. They're gonna split the work. Another one that I want to talk about, but I don't want to talk about, but I feel like I need to talk about, and I'm hoping you bring him up, so I don't have to and shoot myself in the foot because I'm the Kamara owner. You need to look at Tony Jones Jr.
Yes. He was a lot more involved than I thought he'd be.
Exactly. They came out on that first drive and he had like 4 back-to-back carries. I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
And he looked good. I mean,
that's why Latavius Murray is out of a job, because he wouldn't take a pay cut, and now he's on the Ravens. I guess he's not out of a job, but
he looked
my point is, if you're in the situation like we just talked about, where you tried to go zero running back, and you had Raheem Mostert late or James Robinson somehow a little later or something, where your running backs aren't panning out right now and you need to get wins now early in the season, look at these guys.
Yeah, I can agree. You can miss me with Tevin Coleman.
You can miss me with basically the entire Jets backfield.
Just about to go through all of them. You can miss me with all of them. No, thank you. Not until it gets panned out. Maybe. I
drafted Michael Carter and I hate it.
If you're stacked and you got a roster spot to burn, I would go get Ty Johnson. That's the only one that I would even consider. And in that very specific situation. But outside of that, no thank you. I'll pass.
Yeah, I agree. Tight ends? Nasty landscape tight ends. Oh, go ahead.
One more name. If Kenneth Gainwell is not on anybody's roster,
good point.
If he's on your waiver wire, go get him. And that's somebody I would happily spend 15% at least. At least. Maybe 18. But if he's on your waiver wire, if he's still there, I might be able to get him for a little cheaper because people aren't paying attention.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We talk in the FAAB aspect because we have FAAB, but obviously if you have waiver priority, it's all. If you have the number one waiver priority and you don't need any of these players, I don't really know if I'm wasting my number one waiver priority on someone who might pan out for someone that I don't really need. Whereas later in the season, if you get an injury and you really need somebody, that's when the number one priority is like a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. You know what I mean? Like, it's true. So
I don't know. There's not a lot of good running backs right now on the waiver wire outside of
outside of week one. It's all kind of just calling your shots on people you think that had huge games or good games that you think are going to stick. But I'm ready to hit this tight end section.
Let's do it.
Gronk, if he's not rostered, you should probably look at it, but strictly because, as you can tell, the Bucs offense is going to be high powered, and he's a good red zone target for Tom Brady. Always has been. The 101 or 100 touchdowns speak for itself.
Anthony Fersker, because he got targeted. They just weren't good
Mr.
targets.
Ferkser?
Yeah.
All right.
Definitely something that would take a look at.
Next, I would say would be. You ready for this?
Go ahead.
Dallas Goedert. I know he's owned in a lot of leagues.
90% of leagues.
It's the cop-out, I know. But if he is there, if you're in that 10% that he's there, go ahead.
Aaron sure does love those softballs. Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet.
Yep, that's who I was gonna bring up next too. Yeah, I had Mike Gesicki. I drafted Mike Gesicki late in our draft, and he put up a goose. Trying to move on from that. Don't know who
Tight
I'm
end
going to put a waiver in
for the
though.
Texans. What is his name?
Ruben
Farrell
Camp.
Brown. Farrell Brown.
That's fair.
That's if there is no tight ends on that list. You're in a 16-man league. We have a fan out there for 16-man leagues. Farrell Brown's probably not rostered in that league, and
That's
probably will be more heavily involved than anybody else that you're going to be able to get on that on free agency.
I want to bring up Gerald Everett. He's only owned in like 60, I think 5% of leagues.
Okay.
Close enough to 50. I want to bring him up strictly because if they let Russ cook, he's going to throw multiple touchdown passes a game, and Russ has used the tight end pretty frequently. So, if you can go get Gerald Everett, go get Gerald Everett. But really, outside of that, man, tight end landscape's kind of dead. Pat Freiermuth looks like he might be all right if Big Ben can get it together. The Blake Jarwin and Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys, they're going to eat into each other too much, so you kind of have a Jonnu Hunter Henry situation in Dallas.
With Michael Gallup going down, does that move your meter on either one of those guys going forward?
No, because they're both going to, we saw it week 1 where they're both going to end up just sharing all the workload, so it's going to be a crapshoot on who does what.
Yeah, and I think if you're at that point, you're going to need to go and get the Farrell Brown in your league. And because if you're at the point where you're thinking that maybe you should stream one of those two tight ends from Dallas, why not just get the full workload that a team is already going to be down in the numbers going forward? You know, they're not going to win very many more games. Yeah. I don't think Tyrod is like he just woke up and now all of a sudden, I don't think that's how it is.
I don't think so either. But yeah, that's pretty much it for waiver wire, guys. Let us know, because waivers will run on. This is coming out Tuesday. We're gonna let you in a little backstage secrets. We're recording Monday. It's coming out on Tuesday for waivers that run on Wednesdays. Let us know who you get on your waiver wires or who you are targeting in the comments. Just so we can kind of know.
Yeah, I'd love to know. Before we close, you're still here and you're still listening. Don't tilt on CEH. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Fair point.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Fair point.
Or that's it. That's all I got.
Or tilt them and trade them to me. I don't know who's in our league that has them, but
it's not going to happen.
Oh, is it you?
No, it's not me. I wish it was me, but it's not me.
Oh, and Kevin, I haven't checked the score since we started recording, but I'm probably going to lose, so good game, because I had Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones, and Antonio Gibson, and I was up by 58 before Sunday's game started.
You're looking okay right now.
Okay, congratulations, sir, if you win. I'm sure I'll hear all about it, but it's week 1. Don't tilt, don't panic. Stuff's going to happen. Just ride out the season. You got anything else?
That's it.
All right, guys. Well, until next time, we will see you later.